Hey folks, it's Frederik from the FWX podcast. Let's continue with my coverage of the Mission Impossible franchise from this picture, as you can see. And I want to talk about the next installments in this franchise. Let me pick out the picture for you. Here's the poster. It is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And just like in the previous episodes about Ghost Protocol, I said why it is called that. I'm gonna do the same with this one too, with Rogue Nation. And this movie also introduces a couple of new characters, and I'm gonna talk about those. I'm gonna talk about the story. I'm gonna talk about the actors that are in this. I'm gonna show some of them on this cast picture that I have. Here are all of them. The main ones that I need to talk about anyway. And, well, I want to add for a moment, every movie that the Mission Impossible franchise has also introduces some interesting faces that you may have seen or not have seen before. And I'm gonna do that in a moment. I'm gonna give you the disclaimer first that I will definitely, or not, or whatever, be flubbing some words. I might have a weird pause where I need to look something up on my screen. And also, I might swear, or not. That tends to happen or not. We'll see. I briefly want to say that in the last episode I did on the franchise and the fourth movie, I got to a moment where I really let go of not swearing for a moment. And if that's not your thing, well, I'm not gonna hold back if that happens. I also said, and I'll say now again, that sometimes I tend to go on a rant or a tangent about something, and that means I might lose my train of thought or not, and that also usually leads to a weird pause or not. So, also because I'll be reading off my screen, that means that the screen is gonna get brighter, I'm gonna get brighter, and I need you to know that so that you don't have to worry. So, let's continue with Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation. And we're gonna start here with our main guy, Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, of course, as he is on a mission with two of his closest people, Benji Dunn, played by Simon Pegg, and also Lover Stickle, played by Ving Rhames in this movie, once again. And they are trying to intercept a shipment of nerve gas that is being moved from Minsk. And there's, well, they started right at the start with the crazy ass stunt. And the crazy ass stunt in this case is even getting on the plane that the nerve gas is on. And actually just hanging to the side of it, clinging to it, trying to get in. That is the main stunt right here in this movie. And I'm just saying that because I want to get it out of the way. It is quite literally at the start of this movie as they're trying to get this shipment of nerve gas. And that is not just done by anyone. It has been done by an organization known as the Syndicate, which is a consortium of former field operatives from many different intelligence agencies from Europe and from the United States and from other Western countries. And the group, the IMF group, has been tracking the Syndicate for some time, and they get it. And Ethan finds himself in London, where he's about to get a new mission, and he has this fun moment with the station chief as he's about to get his new mission, and I'm gonna pause for a brief moment here and say that this franchise has such a unique way of dealing with things in world and in movie, of doing things differently. I've said that before about the technology. Here it happens with a vinyl, where that Ethan puts on a vinyl recorder. That's probably the wrong word, but you know, the kind of thing where you put the vinyl on the. I bet it's just called a vinyl player. Anyway, so he puts that on. He hears the message, and this is kind of done in like a booth. And so he's listening to it, and he gets his message for the new mission, only for it not to be a message. And there's also those iconic words from this franchise that are given every time. And I'm blanking on those words for just a second. I'm gonna look it up. Iconic words from Mission Impossible. Yeah. The words are, your mission, should you choose to accept it. And so, in this moment, for this episode and for this movie, the words are a bit different, as this is not a message at all. Because it's not the IMF that has the message, it's the Syndicate that has compromised the briefing. Yes, because that was actually the intention of this vinyl player recording, where Ethan was about to be debriefed, which, for those who do not know, is a name for the evaluation of a mission, basically. Yeah. And that is compromised by the Syndicate, who has someone on site in London in the station who holds the station chief hostage and kills her. And we cut to the capital of the United States, to Washington, D.C., where we meet one of those new characters in this movie, a man named Alan Hunley, the director of the CIA. And in this movie, he's being played by this guy, Alec Baldwin. And he is in a Senate committee where he is advocating for the decommission and assimilation of the IMF, as he wants their work, and so he can use it for the CIA's purposes. And his justification for this is all the incredibly destructive things that have happened in Russia in the last events from the movie of Ghost Protocol, where the Kremlin was destroyed. And we find Benji and William Brandt played by Simon Pegg and Jeremy Renner in these pictures. And present, especially Brandt, who is attending this Senate committee, and he has to answer questions. And actually, the committee allows the CIA to assimilate the IMF to them. And so Benji and Brandt are forced to work for the CIA. And they are also under strict scrutiny as they're getting evaluations done, which is basically like therapy, mandated therapy, basically. Yeah. And we cut back to Ethan, who, in this booth where he was getting his debriefing, was gassed to be unconscious. And so we find Ethan awakening from that episode that he had. And so he's he's being held by an ex-KGB agent, Yannick Winter, also known as the Bone Doctor. And I believe I have a picture of him. The Bone Doctor. Gonna have to look it up for a second. Just a second. I have the name. Jens Hürten. I hope I said his name correctly. And so, he's an ex-KGB agent who is now an operative for the Syndicate, who is holding on to Ethan to get information from him, and he is named the Bone Doctor for a reason. He's willing to torture Ethan to get information out of him. But then the other person that is also present with the Bone Doctor and his men, his henchmen, is someone called Ilsa Faust, who is an undercover MI6 agent. And in this movie, she is played by the woman right here, right next to Tom Cruise, Rebecca Ferguson, who you will definitely know from other works like Silo and also Dune, and more work, of course. And she helps Ethan escape. And there's this cool fight scene as she gets him out of the cuffs that he was being held with. I said it weirdly there, folks, sorry. So she helps him escape, and Ethan becomes a wanted fugitive, and we get a bit of a time jump here as we go from there to 6 months later, as Ethan is now a wanted fugitive, as he is trying to get as much information about the Syndicate as possible. And of course he's unwilling to turn himself over to the CIA, as they are now in control of the IMF, with Ellen Hunley played by Alec Baldwin. And so Ethan is gathering as much intelligence about the Syndicate as possible, and there are scenes in the movie where we see the CIA conduct an operation in Cuba, and we get to the real place where Ethan is, as at this point he has a beard now, a really strong beard, and he has no information now, and he has learned of a plot in Vienna, in Austria, and he gets information about this plot to Benji, who is now working for the CIA, kind of forced to work there. And Benji's back to being more of a technician and an analyst. And we cut in between the two as Benji is going to Vienna, where Ethan has gotten him tickets to see the theater piece called Turandot at the State Opera in Vienna. And through yet another interesting piece of technology Benji gets from a courier, by the way, he gets glasses like mine, but with more technology, where he is connected to Ethan at the same time, with like a chip in the thing or something, which, by the way, would be a really cool item to really have. And to track down the man that killed that IMF station operative in London. And here at the opera, they encounter several of those agents from the Syndicate who are there to do the plot that Ethan has found a lot of intelligence about, and that is to assassinate the Chancellor of Austria. And also, the person also present there is Ilsa Faust, the undercover MI6 agent, who is bound to do work for the Syndicate because she's undercover. And two of them manage to stop the hit from taking place in the opera themselves. And there's a cool action scenes between Ethan and a very tall gentleman who used to work for the German intelligence that now works for the Syndicate in the theater parts all themselves upon even a sign that is just crazy. And in effort to get the Chancellor outside, even does the crazy thing that they had to do themselves and shoots the Chancellor in the arm, in the shoulder even, just to get him outside. And we see, in fact, that the blonde man that killed that IMF station in... I'm gonna say that again. So, in fact, the man that killed that station chief of the IMF in London is in fact present, overseeing this operation of his agency. And so Ethan escapes with Ilsa, which prompts to a chase scene, getting out of the opera, and the both of them see the Chancellor getting out, but only to be killed by a car bomb. And they're chased themselves by those agents of the Syndicate. And Benji picks them up with a car to get them out of there. But Ilsa gets out to protect her cover that for the MI6 that she's trying to get the Syndicate to fall apart. And then the CIA learns about this, and the director blames, of course, Ethan and Benji for this. A fake assassination attempt, and real assassination attempt. And he orders his special division, the Special Activities Division, to either get them or kill them. And so we have a bit of a cutaway between the members of the IMF team, between Brandt, who has been going to the Senate committee meetings with the CIA director because he's not working for him, meet with Lover Stickle, who we see in this movie once again portrayed by Ving Rhames, and also Ethan and Benji, and they go to I guess a submarine. I thought that maybe there was a different word for it, but it's like an old submarine that is outfitted on the inside as a safe house for the IMF. And here they plan together, Ethan and Benji. And here's the moment where Ethan lays it all out for Benji as he has been gathering all of this intelligence for 6 months. And here's where Benji says the words that are key and the title of this movie, A Rogue Nation. As the Syndicate is responsible for a bunch of incidents and supposed accidental fatal moments for key people, like for instance the assassination of the Chancellor of Austria. And Benji has this real cool moment of standing up for himself, like, because Ethan tells him, you don't have to do this, you can't go back to your job. But Benji says, no, I'm a field agent, Ethan. Let's do this. Let's take this group on. And so the guys get info. Well, the info they have is like the thing that women use for their lips. A lipstick. Oh my god. I have to think of that. Anyway. And so the lipstick has like a part of it where actually it's a USB drive. Kind of in the same vein as the IMF has their special technological parts. So they use that information to get where she is, and that is in a villa in Casablanca in Morocco. And with that information they go to Morocco. And she tells him even more about the intelligence that he's been gathering, and that the man that he's been following is a former MI6 agent named Solomon Lane. And at this point, now that I have that name, I can give you the picture of the person playing him. Right here. So Solomon Lane is being played by Sean Harris, an incredible actor. And the other thing that I've seen him in was The King, which was a King Lear-inspired Netflix movie of Timothée Chalamet, where he plays a role in. Okay, and then Ilsa also says he's a former, not just that he's a former MI6 agent, but that he's in fact the leader of the Syndicate, and that he has resources unknown to most people. So they have a new plan, and here comes the next big stunt-in. And the key that what they need to do is to retrieve a digital ledger that was stolen from Lane, which contains all the names of the operatives working for the Syndicate now. But this thing is in an underwater vault, not too far from where they are at in Morocco. And it's a really tense scene. It's really crazy, and the stunt here in this part of the movie is that Ethan needs to get the digital ledger, but it's stuck in underwater. But the way in which everything is built and such, and that this vault has a current in itself, means that he should be able to breathe longer, but actually can't because he's just human. But being crazy and extreme in this movie means doing everything and anything that they can. So there's a training montage of how they're gonna do this. And they do in fact infiltrate the underwater vaults. and Ethan gets the digital ledger while Benji is working to get through all the security systems. Also, I want to briefly shout out a short moment as they're getting into the facility. Well, Benji, in fact, is getting into the facility, and for a brief moment, at just the gates to getting into the facility, there's this really soft, well, tender moments, kind of humorously passed as Benji says Ebola, thinking that it's Arabic or Moorish, or in Dutch we say Berbers, for people from Morocco who speak mostly. You know what? To be sure, I'm gonna look this up for a moment. Because I need to be certain of this for a moment. I guess I can just say Berber. In Dutch, we say Berber. Okay, so anyway, that was a little moment I wanted to highlight. Okay, let's continue here. So, they infiltrate the underwater vault to get through all the security systems. They get the digital ledger. Unfortunately, Ethan almost dies, having no oxygen in his system anymore. And luckily, he's resuscitated by Benji with a defibrillator. Weird how that. By the way, weird how that comes round and round, because there was a lot about defibrillators in the last movie, now again. So, anyway, as Benji is resuscitating Ethan, Ilsa gets the digital ledger, and she goes away with it, and she goes to London, and she meets with her handler, who is Chief Adley from the MI6. I get a picture of him here. This guy right here, played by Simon McBurney. He is Chief Adley in this movie. And as they're meeting and she's leaving, we get to reveal that actually Chief Adley has been deleting the data from the digital ledger that she just recovered for him. And he forces Ilsa to continue her assignment, and he threatens her that basically we can cut you off if need be if you don't do what we ask you to do. And that results in a chase scene with Benji and Ethan. Well, that is right before Ilsa goes to London. There's a chase scene between Ethan and Benji trying to get at her, and while that is happening, they're found by Brandt and Stickle, who have now gone rogue from the CIA. And here we get a bit more exposition about what exactly the Syndicate is, and through a little fact that we learn in a little bit of a highbrow kind of way, in that Benji had copied everything that was on this digital ledger as he was resuscitating Ethan, by the way. So that not all that data is now gone and dead. So, and they learn through working in group and with technology that what exactly was on this digital ledger. And in fact, it is a virtual red box from the British government. You know what? I'm gonna rephrase that for a moment. So they meet up, they team up, they get the technology to find out what exactly this digital ledger is, as Benji has made a copy of it, and it is in fact an encrypted British government virtual red box. And a red box is basically a kind of dispatch box that governmental figures can use to gather resources together. But they also learned that they need yet another sort of key to get it open. Except that this key isn't like a physical key, it's a person. Because this red box requires the biometrics of someone. And of course, it couldn't be anybody else, but maybe the most important government official in the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister. And so the group travels to London, and as they're doing this, as they're trying to meet with Ilsa also in King's Cross Railway Station, we see that Lane has his men, Lane being the chief of the Syndicate, he has his men abduct Benji while they're meeting with Ilsa to get the information, as she hasn't figured out that they actually copied all the information from the digital ledger. And so the Syndicate uses Benji to blackmail Ethan into decrypting and delivering the data to the Syndicate and to Solomon Lane specifically. And Brand is a little perturbed by this. He is not really sure if they should do this, if this is not just ethical, but like against morality in and all of this. And so he protests this, but Ethan does decide, like, let's just do it. There's no other way. And as they do this, as they're about to start this mission, this part of the mission, Brand leaks very secretly the location to the director of the CIA, to Hunley, who again in this movie is played by Alec Baldwin. And that leads them to go to Oxford in a sort of event with a red carpet. Brand and Hunt go and meet the Prime Minister, and even at this point is once again using the technology that the IMF has and using the face mask finally well again since Ghost Protocol. And he is disguised as Ilsa's boss, Atlee, the chief of the MI6. And they go and meet with the Prime Minister, and they have a separate meeting with him. And in this meeting, he finally confirms that this was a secret project proposed by nobody else but Atlee himself, so they can recruit ex-intelligence agents to do missions without any oversight and accountability. Basically Black Ops. And the Prime Minister rejected this idea, of course, because it's ludicrous and it's ethically wrong. Also, by the way, importantly here, the Prime Minister of the UK is played in this movie by this man, Tom Hollander, a very skilled actor. I know him mostly from... I'm gonna look it up for just a second here. Yeah, he played Beckett, the leader of the VOC in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the third movie. And apparently he's also known for other things, of course, like a role in The Kingsman from a couple of years ago, the prequel for the Kingsman franchise. Also, for just a moment, I'm gonna say that that seems like something that I might also cover in the future, as it is perfectly for me. It's a lot about action and spies and all of that, and is unlike most of those spy franchises, a lot more bloody too. Um, but he's also known from a role in The Night Manager and About Time, the Emilia Clarke movie. Okay, anyway. So, Tom Hollander plays the Prime Minister. Who unequivocally rejected the whole idea of gathering former intelligence agents so they can do Black Ops missions. And even uses that moment to reveal himself, and he tranquilizes the Prime Minister and get the biometrics of him, which allows Luthor to decrypt the file that they have, the digital ledger. And at that point, with the face mask of Atlee revealed, Ethan and Brand get the real Atlee, who has just arrived, to agree that he secretly started the Syndicate without the knowledge of the Prime Minister before the whole Syndicate was taken over by Solomon Lane, who once again is played by Sean Harris in this movie. Huh. And to protect British intelligence and the UK, Adley initially had the idea of framing all of that on Ilsa Faust herself. And during the encryption that Luthor is doing, as done by tech support and as part of the team, they get to know just how much resources were in that red box. In fact, that it contained 2.4 billion pounds in accounts in places where that are more agreeable to black market kind of stuff. Yeah, so 2.4 billion pounds, numerous accounts all over the world. And so that leaves the group to make a decision, and even makes a decision for the group, and that is to destroy the data, as he has now figured out that Lane actually wants to fund the Syndicate with all that money, as he could do much more missions with it. And so, with a new idea and a plan, Ethan goes to a meeting that has been arranged by Lane, and there Ethan finds that Benji is there, and is of course glad to see his friend and colleague, but then he also finds that he's been strapped to a bomb, almost like a suicide vest kind of thing, but also that he's wearing a way of communication, like a headset, and he's got that special kind of lens that I've talked about in Ghost Protocol. In the Ghost Protocol movie, the episode that I did for it previously. And so Ethan tells Lane through the connection, as Lane is making Benji say everything that he is saying, as a proxy basically, as Ethan and Ilsa is also there, and they confront Lane through Benji, and Ethan well, what's the proper word here? Ethan I'm gonna say it differently. Ethan offers himself up in exchange for Benji, because he says that he has completely memorized every single account with all that money before he destroyed the data, by the way. So that basically he is like a living, breathing financial book with money. And so that causes Lane to budge on that and disarm the bomb that was about to go off on Benji. And at the very last second, it doesn't, of course, because Lane disables the bomb remotely. And that leaves the three of them, Benji, Ilsa, and Ethan, to go on a chase as they're being pursued by Yannick Winter's men, and through some very cool cloak and dagger kind of ways through London. For those who don't know, cloak and dagger is a kind of secret clandestine way of dealing with things, like meeting on bench parks with your backs towards each other as you're talking. But also, there's a couple of interesting fight scenes here where there's a lot of shooting and all of such. But there's also a very cool hand dagger fight between Ilsa and Yannick Winter, where she ultimately kills him. And that's very cool. And Ethan is using this moment to trap Lane, who's also chasing after him, into a bulletproof glass cell that he and the three boys, Luther, Benji, and Brandt have gone him in. And they manage to close it off, and he gasses them. And the group gasses Lane in the same way that Lane had to do with Ethan initially. And that information is then passed along to the CIA, which finds us to Hunley, Alec Baldwin's character, him right here, as he is once again in another Senate committee in America. And here he shuts down all his claims about how inefficient the IMF is, and that they can be a form of good, a source of good, an organization of good again, and that they don't have to assimilate into the CIA. And I should mention here also that Hunley was present during that meeting with the Prime Minister that Brandt and Ethan had before. And that was actually the pretext for Hunley to help Ethan expose and shut down the Syndicate. And they used this to their advantage to have the committee restore the IMF. And then, following that, we end the movie as William Brandt, Jeremy Renner's character. I'm gonna bring him up again in this picture. That's this guy right here. He welcomes Hunley now, no longer as the CIA director, but the secretary for the IMF, because they needed a new one, because the old one died in Ghost Protocol. So, that is where this movie ends. I will say, I also very much enjoyed this one. I've seen it a couple of times. It remains one of my favorites. Those new ones really hold up well. There's always just a ton of fun to be had with these movies. And I enjoyed doing this, the podcast, and doing the episodes and talking about this kind of stuff. And I hope that you can share that with family and friends and people from work, or people online if you like that, so that the channel and the podcast can keep growing. So thank you very much for watching and listening. You can like this video, you can also subscribe to the channel. I'd love for you to do that, and please share it as much as you can. I would love for you to do that. And we end this video right here on an interesting mark So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video where I'll be covering Dead Reckoning and Fallout 2. So thanks for all of that. I've been Frederik for the FWX podcast. See you in the next video. Peace.